Rangers, what's the creepiest story you've ever encountered in the woods? There was a time I worked as a patrol officer in a vast wilderness area. Most of my job involved coordinating with rangers. We'd patrol assigned zones, dismantling illegal cameras, animal traps and the like. Each shift usually paired me with one other ranger. One day, while we were out on patrol, my partner said he wasn't feeling right. We took a break, but he didn't improve much, so I decided to let him head back early while I continued alone. I let him go because from where we were, it was nearly an hour's drive on rough terrain to get back to base. As I was trudging through clearing traps and cameras, a voice suddenly cut through the air around me, low, raspy, and unnervingly slow. Where I stood was far from any trail surrounded by dense trees, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint where the voice came from. I shouted, trying to sound authoritative, asking if someone was nearby. No response. It felt like I was losing my mind, like Mother Nature herself was toying with me. Dusk was creeping in, so I thought screw it, and headed back to my off-road vehicle to return to base. But when I climbed in and shifted to drive, nothing happened. Panic started to set in. Alone in the sprawling forest, my vehicle dead, the nearest trail 3 kilometers away, it was like the setup for a horror flick. I steadied myself and checked the vehicle. After some poking around, I found the battery cable had been completely disconnected. I tried not to dwell on how or who could have done it. My only thought was fixing it and getting the hell out of that eerie forest. I reattached the cable, plugged it back into the battery, and to my relief the engine roared to life, but it felt off unsteady. And it was. I'd barely driven a kilometer when the vehicle sputtered and died completely. No power, no lights, nothing. Luckily, I'd reached an area with signal again and could use my radio. I called base for urgent backup. Within moments, my colleagues responded, but they said it'd take nearly an hour to reach me. Then I remembered my partner, who'd left earlier. I asked if he'd made it back. They said no one had seen him. Strange. Night was falling fast. While waiting for help, I built a small fire to ward off the cold and the oppressive gloom of the forest. That's when I heard it again, that voice echoing around me. The trees were still too thick to trace its source, but this time it wasn't just one voice. I strained to listen and realized there were two arguing fiercely. One sounded furious, bellowing at the other, who seemed terrified, their voice trembling. I shouted into the darkness, asking what was going on, if anyone needed help. Once again, silence answered me. I estimated both voices were within 300 meters of me. By now, I was truly rattled. I grabbed my radio, pressed my colleagues again, demanding to know why they were taking so long to reach me. They said they couldn't pinpoint my exact location, so it'd take more time to get to me. I told them to check with my partner from earlier, the one who had a tablet with a map for navigation. Their response sent a fresh wave of dread through me. He hadn't made it back. Where was he? Moments later, those ghostly voices echoed around me again. This time I was determined to find out if some troublemakers were lurking nearby. I followed the direction the voices seemed to come from, or at least where I thought they did, but the further I went, the more the voices seemed to slip away from me. The deeper I chased, the more it felt like I was pursuing something pointless, like chasing a long-dead romance. After about 20 minutes of this maddening game, I gave up. No more chasing. I was drained. I trudged back to the small fire I'd built to warm myself. My radio crackled. My colleagues at base said they'd found my partner, the one who'd left early, feeling unwell. He was unconscious when they found him, covered in vomit, looking utterly horrified. They'd rushed him to the hospital and were now heading to my location. As I was giving them more details about my position, my radio suddenly died completely out of battery. And then once again those voices started up around me. This time, I didn't move. I sat there, straining to catch the words of the conversation. I made out fragments, things like, "Hey, it wasn't you who took it, was it? And I don't care," followed by, "Come on, don't do this, you're better than that." Then came a string of threat, the tension in their exchange spiking. Suddenly, everything went dead silent. The silence stretched on for 3, maybe 4 agonizing minutes, and then a gunshot shattered the air. I immediately doused my fire, bolted into the bushes to hide. Silence swallowed everything again. No more voices, no rustling leaves, no crackling fire, just my shallow, panicked breathing. After what felt like forever, I heard the rumble of off-road vehicles. My team had arrived, and relief flooded through me. I left my dead vehicle behind. A colleague drove me back to base. There, I recounted everything I'd been through. We decided that the next day we'd call in the police and their K9 unit for support. The next morning, a full police team joined us to patrol, investigate the gunshot from the day before. After about an hour of searching, we found a shallow, crudely dug grave, clearly someone's rushed attempt to hide a crime. Inside was the body of a man. One glance showed he'd been shot in the face. The thing is, the body was just bones. He'd clearly been dead for years. We came up with 2 theories. One, the gunshot I heard was from some other incident we hadn't uncovered yet. 2, I'd somehow overheard a spectral whisper of a crime that happened long ago.